Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here to listen to this sharing on the science behind Kangen Water. You've just heard 4 testimonials, including the one by Uncle Frank, on the therapeutic effects of Kangen Water. I think if we allow everyone to share, I think we won't be able to finish this until probably midnight. If you just meet any Kangen Water user, he or she definitely will be able to share with you some testimonials on how wonderful this Kangen Water is all about. For some of you who are new to Kangen Water, probably a lot of questions marks in your mind. Some people say Kangen Water is a miracle water. But for me, being a science lecturer, I like to analyze or help you understand the science behind Kangen Water. And this is really the topic that I have been actually, deep in my heart. I've been doing research since 3 years ago. When I was more than 3 years ago, I started actually consuming Kangen Water, although I know Kangen Water much longer than that. The materials I'm going to share with you this afternoon is actually taken from a book by the same title that I'm currently preparing. Hope to be able to release to the market by the middle of this year. So a lot of things are actually fresh, and in fact I was still revising the materials, I think, this morning. And thank you, Pastor Andrew, for actually inviting me to actually share this with you. I hope it will be useful to you in your understanding about Kangen Water. So let us begin this journey to understand about Kangen Water. So to understand Kangen Water, let us understand a little bit of water first. So I say the chemistry of water. So just to actually remind ourselves, water, chemical formula H2O, 2 hydrogen atom bonded chemically to an oxygen atom. And that is a molecular structure of water. And if we understand that in the liquid state, in the solid state, water does not exist as a single molecule. Earlier on, probably you heard some people talk about cluster. What is this cluster? How do water cluster actually exist? Actually, if you look carefully at water itself, this is water molecule, this is water molecule. Each of these is a water molecule here. But the water molecule is not by itself in the liquid or in the solid state. Yes, in the gaseous state, water vapor, yes, it could be in this state here. Why is it so? Because water, if you allow me to use a chemical term, is a polar molecule, and it is hydrogenly bonded to the other water molecules over here. So that's why it exists in a cluster. Okay, some of the terms I use are probably too technical, but don't worry about that. Okay, just understand, just remember that the science behind it surely exists. That will be sufficient. Think about this. I just highlighted a few substances over here. Water, formula H2O, molecular mass, or molecular weight, you want to call it 18. It is a liquid. Carbon dioxide, CO2, very similar structure. Heavier, it is a gas. Even heavier, nitrogen dioxide is a gas. Sulfur dioxide, heavier, 4 times heavier than water, it is a gas. So surely there must be something in water actually that make it so different from the other gases. Otherwise, we won't have water to drink in this world. Probably water with vapor, and that is really because of the hydrogen bonding in between the water molecules. The other point I want to explain a little bit here is also what kind of water can go into the Kangen machine. To understand that property, we need to understand that water is a covalent molecule. So therefore, it ionizes very little, very little ions in pure water. Okay? If you look at the ionization itself, this is a chemical form, ionic formula here, ionic equation here, H plus and OH minus. Very small quantity. And that's the reason why actually pure water doesn't conduct electricity. Okay, the reverse reaction, in fact, the moment the H plus is formed and OH formed, they can recombine again to give you back your water molecule. So any one instant, very little ion. So therefore, what it says here, pure water cannot conduct electricity. What does it mean? It means that pure water, or very close to pure water, RO water. You know what's RO water? What does RO stand for? Reverse osmosis. So reverse osmosis water and distilled water cannot work with Kangen machines. So this is the fact I think you need to understand here. And in fact, water that is too soft may not produce good quality Kangen water. So therefore, if you understand the magic machines in places apart from Singapore, Malaysia, in other places where the water is too soft, you may need to put in calcium capsules to enhance the hardness of the water before it can actually produce good quality Kangen water. Okay, so your water source is very important here for your Kangen machine to work. So with that understanding, let us understand a little bit about pH now. Again, all these are secondary school science that many of us actually learned before, but just to recap some of the points so that the discussion later on will be more relevant to you. pH, of course, potential of hydrogen. Okay, it is a measure of determining if a liquid is acidic or alkaline. Okay, to determine whether it's acid or it is alkaline. That's called pH. Notice that the pH is always written as small p, capital H. So don't show your friend pH is capital P, capital H, or capital P, small h, even worse. So correctly written small p, capital H. Basically small p with a bracket and a H inside there. Potential of hydrogen. Okay. A pH scale is actually ranges from 0 all the way to 14. Minimum, you go down to 0, maximum is 14. So anything greater than, smaller than 7, okay, is considered to be as acidic. Smaller than 7 is acidic. Greater than 7 is called basic or alkaline. 7 is considered as neutral. Understand this concept? More than 7 is actually, more than 7 is alkaline, less than 7 is acidic, 7 is neutral. Now, don't worry about the mathematics involved over here, just to actually to show you that when we say something, this liquid have a pH of 5, and this water here has a pH of 6. 5 and 6, for example, are both acidic, right? But how acidic are they in comparing to one another? Although look at pH 5 and pH 6, only a difference of one number, right? 1 only. Value is 1. But this water is 10 times more acidic than the pH 6 water, because it's based on the log 10 formula here. So what it means is that actually pure water is neutral, and the midpoint of the pH scale, pH is neutral, pH is 7. Pure water consists of water molecules surrounded by a very small amount of actually hydrogen ion, hydroxide ions. That's not okay. Neutral because it has an equal number of H plus and OH minus. See? Now, I said over here, this point here, pure water has a pH of 7. By right, theoretically, it is neutral, right? It is neutral. But many of us that carry out your test, your water test. Okay, you put your indicator inside there. You take the RO water. What's the color of the resultant water? It shows acidic. earlier on I mentioned that RO water is close to pure water, but how come RO water is acidic here? Actually, the reason behind is actually the moment the pure water is exposed to the air, carbon dioxide in the air dissolves in the water to form a very weak carbonic acid, and that actually causes the acidity of the distilled water or the pure water. It can only remain pure if it is isolated from the atmosphere. Okay, because carbon dioxide have a very high affinity for water. It dissolves inside there. Okay, you cannot remember that, never mind, just to let you understand the reason behind. So as I was saying earlier on, a liquid with a pH of 6 is 10 times more acidic than pure water. So if you take a water, for example, that show pH 5, and then take your pure water is 7, it is 100 times more acidic. Can you see that? Acidic is 10-fold. Number is 1, but the acidity is 10 times. Very technical. So check. If I give you 3 samples of water, one liquid A, I say pH 5.5, another one pH 6.5, and another one pH 7.5. What can you tell me about these 3 liquids here? Can someone, just to gauge an understanding of what I'm talking about so far? Can someone say something? Okay, acidity and alkalinity. What else? Yes.
Acid A is 100 times more acidic than liquid C.
Okay, this is 100 times more acidic than liquid C. That is correct. You can see the number 5.5 to 6.5 to 7.5. It's 10 times here and then another 10 times here. So this is actually 100 times more acidic than 7.5. Although the number looks very small, but the acidity is 100 times. Okay, so the point I'm trying to say to get you to understand is that liquid A and B here are acidic, but here of course it is higher than 7, so this is actually alkaline. And the other point we have just mentioned, liquid A is more acidic than liquid B, and it's 10 times more acidic here. And you can also say, just mentioned. Okay. With that understanding of pH in water, now we look at electrolysis of water. Kangen water is just electrolysis of water. With the electrolysis of water, it produces Kangen water and our what we call acidic water or beauty water. This is a very simple setup on how electrolysis can take place. A battery, a power source, connected to 2 wires here with what we call electrodes here, an electrode, deep into a liquid known as an electrolyte. An electrolyte means a liquid that can conduct electricity, that allow electricity to pass through. So you look at the battery here, basically you look at in the direction of the current will be moving from here, and the current needs to go through to this side before this circuit is complete here. So if you put this as your pure water here, if you put a light bulb here, the light bulb will not light up because electricity cannot pass through pure water itself. Okay? So if you use RO water here, the RO water will not be able to conduct electricity well. Okay? Very little amount of electrolysis take place here. So in the production of Kangen water, this is what happens. Okay, this is what happens here at the negative electrodes. Okay, when you sample, when the machine is good, when you sample your actually Kangen water from the top tube here, you can see that the water contains plenty of very tiny little bubbles. What are those? Those are the hydrogen gas. Later on, I'll tell you how to test if you want to carry out a test on this hydrogen gas. Likewise, at the other hose, the gray hose, the water coming out from there, if you collect the water as well, you also see bubbles coming from there. That bubbles is not the same as the one at the negative electrode. The one Actually, at the bottom, it is actually the oxygen gas. And again, you can test. You can carry out the test yourself to show that these electrolysis, what I just tell you here, did actually take place. And this is what happened. Okay, at the negatively charged cathode, the reduction takes place. This is taking place, and the ionization forming the hydrogen gas also takes place there. Okay, so you can see that the hydrogen gas is involved, hydrogen gas is involved, and at the same time the OH minus. I'm sure many of you heard about the term ionizer. Have you heard of ionizer before? Yeah, it said Kangen machine is an ionizer. What is an ionizer? An ionizer is a machine that produces ionizations. Earlier on we mentioned that pure water contains very little ions. So an ionizer forces the water itself to produce more ions. Okay? And of course you can see that the water molecules here actually gaining the electrons here, evolving, giving out the hydrogen here, and of course OH minus. And this accounts for the what we call the antioxidant. Earlier on you listened to the DVD and it says the antioxidant property. The antioxidant property is due to the release of hydrogen. And of course, how the hydrogen acts as an antioxidant is beyond the scope of this, today's lesson over here. Okay, but just need to know that it's a hydrogen that's responsible for that. And at the same time, you can see from this equation that the OH minus here, and this of course accounts for the alkalinity of your Kangen water. Your Kangen water, your source water coming in could be neutral, but the Kangen water you sample, you can get Kangen water 8.5, Kangen water 9.0, and Kangen water 9.5. How does the machine able to let you control the alkalinity of the Kangen water? Anybody would like to try that? When you press the button 8.5 water come out, approximately, of course, approximately. And you press the button 9.5 water come out. How does the machine able to do that? Of course, this is the technology behind. Of course, the machine does it through by controlling the voltage. The voltage applied to the two electrodes there. Okay, so when you press a 9.5, a bigger voltage is applied across the two terminals there. So attracting more ions of both polarity to the opposite poles there. When you are actually using a lesser voltage difference, then of course lesser amount of ions and less ionization will take place as well. So at a positively charged electron, an oxidation take place, and of course in this case here, you can see that oxygen gas is involved, and that accounts for the oxidizing effect of your beauty water, and at the same time, the release of the hydrogen gas, actually the hydrogen ions is actually causing the water to be acidic. So the water coming out from the gray holes below, it is acidic because new hydrogen ions are released into the water itself. So if we look carefully at the ionization, I mean from a chemistry angle, this is what happened. Okay, if you actually have two testing inverted there, if you want to collect the oxygen and the hydrogen gas, okay, you will find that hydrogen gas, the amount is actually approximately twice the amount of oxygen gas collected at the two poles there. Okay, but of course, this is the science behind it. But that is not relevant to what I think we as consumers of Kangen water. But chemistry behind is this. Again, I asked earlier, how do you know that above reaction does occur and the above equations are correct? Of course, we can test for the presence of the end products. What are the end products earlier we mentioned? Hydrogen gas. What else? Oxygen gas. So if you want to really test, prove that this ionization, this electrolysis does take place. Very easy. Collect the Kangen water, collect the beauty water, use a test for the gases. How to do the test? You should do the test. If you can recall your chemistry again, test for hydrogen. You take a glowing splint. Okay, glowing splint means you have, let's say for example, a matchstick. You light up a matchstick, shake away the flame. Okay, still got the glowing. It's still glowing there. The moment you put it, insert it into the tube. If you hear a pops up, pop, means hydrogen is released. This is actually the chemistry behind the test of it. Likewise for oxygen. If you need to test for the presence of oxygen, then of course the same principle, glowing splint, and then the moment you insert it into the tube, you can see that the splint, the glowing splint actually bursts into a flame. Okay, in secondary school science we say rekindles a glowing splint. Okay, so this is a test. Of course, do remember that your tubing try to be as not too big a beaker. Your water container might not be the best. Okay, so you have to adjust the size of your container so that you can collect the sufficient amount of the gas here to do this test here. So meaning that this is just diagrammatically how it works here. Test for hydrogen. This is how it does. It actually gives you a pop sound, pop. Okay, and for the oxygen, it actually rekindles a glowing splint. Okay, you can carry out this test easily if you do want to find out. Okay, so this is another diagram just to show you that. Now, this section I think is important for you to understand so that you know how to sample the best quality Kangen water for yourself, for the people that you want to give the water away. Since the Kangen water works on the principle of electrolysis, then we need to understand what affects electrolysis, what affects the rate of electrolysis. Basically, there are only three factors here. One is the time. Second is current. Third one is the surface area of the electrodes. Time. Timing, the longer you allow electrolysis to take place, the more hydrogen gas will be evolved. So if your water supply, the pressure is very fast, and you want to sample a good quality Kangen water with a very high hydrogen, meaning that the ORP will be as high as possible negatively, then what you need to do is to slow down the water supply. When you slow down the water supply, meaning that you allow more time for the electrolysis to take place, and therefore the reading will be better. Okay, so that is actually the first factor. The second factor, which is also very important here, current. Earlier on, I think somebody mentioned, one of the testimonials talking about the different types of machines out there in the market. I think when Kangen water machines came into Singapore, a lot more other brands also come in. And some people might be confused. Okay, different kind of marketing tactics has come in, and I'd like to highlight you to actually do the comparison yourself. If we have two machines over here, the first machine, the power is 230 watt, and this power is only 110 watt. Okay, which do you think will produce a better quality Kangen water or ionized water? Machine A. Why do you think so? Because again, electrolysis, we're talking about principle electrolysis. Electrolysis means you want to supply electricity to it. Okay, it's the electricity, the charges that actually causes electrolysis to take place. So therefore, the power is very important, the current is very important. So therefore, these will certainly give you a better quality ionized water. And in our case, we use Kangen water. There might be some other mix out there try to confuse the market, try to confuse the consumers. They tell you, oh, this one is more energy saving. If energy saving, don't use electricity at all. Then no electrolysis take place. Okay, so do remember, the higher the power, the more current, the more charges can go through the two electrodes there, and therefore better quality ionized water. And in our case, Kangen water. Two other machines here. Machine C, machine D. Surface area. Earlier on we said this is another factor affecting the quality of the rate of reaction is actually the surface area. Surface area 1000 cm square, and another machine 1500 cm square here. Which machine produces a better quality Kangen water? Sorry? D or C?
D.
Okay, actually, this produces, because the bigger the surface area is the surface area in contact with the water. It is there that more electron can be picked up. So if the area is very small, only imagine like this. This is a small area here, and all the water has to come here to go and pick up the electron in order for the electrolysis to take place. Whereas another machine, you have a bigger plate there. A lot of water molecule can go to anywhere here, a bigger surface area to pick up the electron to undergo the electrolysis. So therefore, more ionization certainly will take place in this case here. There are some other business tactics available in the market, and this is how you probably heard it somewhere from a media somewhere. Machine E, machine F. Machine E contains 9 electrodes. It's the best quality ionizer in town with 9 electrodes. And another machine is with 7 electrodes. Have you heard about this advertisement before? Probably, I think. So the question I'm asking is, which machine produces a better quality ionized water? Which one? E or F? We don't know. Actually, the answer is not sure. Not sure. We don't know. I cannot tell you. Because it is not the number of electrodes that matter. It is the surface area. The total surface area add together, that actually matters. So some people don't tell you the surface area. They only tell you the number of electrodes. Give you an example. You've got 9 electrodes, and each electrode, the surface area is only 100. So actually you only have 900 cm square. But you've got 7 electrodes, but each one is big one. 200 cm square. Then you are getting 1004 cm square. And in this particular case, certainly, this produces the better quality ionized water. Understand this principle? So don't be misled by the number of electrodes. Number of electrodes is only relevant if we compare the electrodes are of the same sizes. So therefore, for us, in magic, in Kangen water, yes, the 7 plates, the 5 plate, the 7 plate will be better than the 5 plate. The 5 plate will still be better than the 3 plates, because each of the plate has the same size, irrespective of the model that you are using. Understand this principle behind? Okay. So the concentration of the ions in the electrolyte also affect the quality of the Kangen water. Now, some of you probably will be, traveling with your Kangen water machine with you. Okay. For whatever purpose, I don't know. Sometimes, you go traveling. Just for example, recently in December, I traveled with my Kangen water machine in South Australia. The 10 days, we went to 7 or 8 places. If you want to measure the ORP of the Kangen water produced from each of these places, you will find that it fluctuates. And the fluctuation is really due to the concentration of the ions inside the original water source. Okay? And how do you know this concentration? you can easily use a TDS meter. A TDS meter is actually a measures total dissolved solid. Okay, you can use it to estimate the number of ions, the amount of ion, the concentration of ions inside there. And in area 1, for example, let's say the TDS show 100. In Singapore, our TDS reading is approximately between, I would say, between 60 and probably 70 in different parts of Singapore. So far I've tested, okay, 60 or 70. So our water is actually really soft water, not hard water. I'm sure some of you have heard about hard water. If you have clients or friends in, let's say for example, Indonesia, in Myanmar, in Thailand, of course Australia, in Vietnam, you will find that if you use a TDS meter, the TDS meter show a very high reading. Okay, some as high as 600, 700. Okay, so the hardness actually shows by the TDS readings over here. So in this example here, the TDS of area 1 is 100, area 2 is 250. So in this particular case here, you will find that the same machine, okay, when you travel to this area, you will show a better ORP because the concentration of the ion is actually greater, therefore more ionization can take place. Okay, so that is the principle behind this. Also very important, I think once you start using the Kangen water machines, you need to know how to do the cleaning. Okay, and this is important. Okay, calcium is going to be deposited on the cathode, on the negative electrode where your Kangen water is actually being released. Okay, the tap water, our tap water contains calcium, contains magnesium. And of course, you can recall from your science lesson or chemistry lesson, calcium is 2+, magnesium is also 2+. The same as your hydrogen. So therefore, they are extracted by the cathode here. So therefore, what happened is that during the electrolysis, a very thin film of calcium is also formed on the cathode. The electrode that produces your Kangen water, a very thin, maybe 1-2 atoms thick. Okay, so this deposit here will reduce the contact surface. If you allow this calcium deposit to thicken, then you will find that you will reduce the effectiveness of electrolysis, and therefore your ORP reading will drop. Alright? Now, how to tackle this problem? Most ionizers attempt to overcome this problem here. Okay? What is the problem? How do they do? And of course, they switch the polarity for the electrodes. Initially, for example, let's assume a hypothetical case. Only 2 electrodes here. This is the negative electrode, and this is the positive electrode. This is the electrode here. From the DVD can be done, no problem, except probably the oil test. But after 6 months of usage to a year in Singapore context, you will find that the effectiveness of many of these ionizers deteriorate. In places like Indonesia, Vietnam, where the water is hard, more deposit will be formed on the plate itself. After 3 months, you go and test the water, you'll find that the machine actually has become less effective. And that is the reason why, in fact, in the earlier years of actually use of this ionized water, a lot of people are saying this. They drink ionized water, but somehow the effects on their body wanes off after a while. Why? And the reason is actually attributed to the effectiveness of the ionization process. Okay? No longer the case for other mix. In the case of a Kangen machine, it is actually very different here. Okay, so for magnetic ionizers, actually we use an additional technology to clean the plates manually. So therefore, this is a very important step if you want to maintain your energetic machines tip-top conditions. You want to make sure that after 10 years of using, the machine still look like a new one. You must not forget to do your cleaning. Here we make use of citric acid to soak the machine overnight so that the calcium deposit now are removed during the e-cleaning process. So basically, the citric acid is acid. The calcium deposited on the plate now actually are in contact with the acid, in this case here, dissolved into the water now. Okay, so by the next morning, estimated to be about a few hours later, actually the machine again is new. Okay, and that is the reason why if you sample your machine after you have just cleaned it, you look at the bubbles again, wow, plentiful of bubbles actually. That shows that electrolysis is again very, very effective. The Kangen Water is a new one. The frequency of e-cleaning depends on the hardness of the water source. In a Singapore context, I think I've tested for everyday household, let's say a normal household like Singapore household, approximately 1 to 1.5 months, do one time of e-cleaning will be sufficient. If you have clients or friends in Indonesia and Vietnam, do remind them to clean it more often. Okay? Every 1 to 2 weeks, because the hardness again depends on different parts of the Indonesia or Vietnam. They can be very, very hard. Okay, otherwise you can see a lot of powdery substance. Okay, so diagrammatically this is how it works here. Electrolysis here, the deposit of the calcium will be on the plates itself like this. Okay, so here the citric acid, the calcium powder here now is stripped off, go inside there. Okay, that's how it cleans it. So that is the electrolysis of water, causing the production of what we call Kangen water and beauty water. The next one I want to tell you a little bit more about this electrolysis of brine or salt solution, your sodium chloride solution. And it is this process that is responsible for the production of strong Kangen water and strong acidic water here. All our ionizers, different models here. In this series, in the series of the ionizer for the homes, SD501, SD501 platinum, or even the JR or DX, the salt solution is added through the enhancer. It is known as electrolysis enhancer. It's to enhance the electrolysis process. You add more ions. Why sodium here? Because sodium is an ionic compound. Sodium chloride is salt is sodium chloride. It is an ionic compound. You add it inside there, it increases the amount of ions. So it enhances the electrolysis process. And that's how Energetic use the term enhancer over here. So add it to a chamber over here. In the Super 501 machine, the electrolysis enhancer is added to the container over here. Okay, you mix salt with water and then you add it to there, and of course you can use it to produce the strong Kangen as well as a strong acidic water. And this is actually what happened, the chemistry behind it. This is really the electrolysis of sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, if you look at the composition of sodium chloride, you will have the sodium ions, you have the chloride ions, and of course a little bit of the H plus and the OH minus from the original water source. Okay? So when you press the strong acidic water button, the sodium chloride solution seeps through into the ionizing chamber. Okay, mixes with the incoming tap water and then undergo this process of ionization. And here, this is what happens here. So the H plus, this is a negative electrode here. all the positive ion now, the H plus, the Na plus, all are attracted towards this side, just like before. But here now, of course, the enhance is through the Na plus and as well as the Cl minus here. Okay, and the Cl minus together with the OH minus now migrates towards the positive electrodes. And this is what happened. At the anode, the chloride ions are oxidized preferentially because the energy to do so is much lesser. Preferred to be released. Cl minus, Cl2 is released as a gas. So that's why if you smell the strong Kangen, the strong acidic water, it has a pungent smell, right? The pungent smell is actually due to the release of the Cl2. Okay, so do take note that Cl2 is produced. So if you have clients or family members who are allergic to chlorine, please make sure that they are not around. Don't go and actually smell it. Okay, if they are allergic to that. At the cathode here, at the negative electron here, hydrogen again will be actually produced. So no change in the cathodic reaction here. It's only at the anode that instead of oxygen, earlier on we said oxygen given up, but now through the enhancer, now chlorine is actually produced. That's only different. This is just a chart to show you what happened. No change. When you use dilute HCl, just tap water here, this is actually the standard reaction, hydrogen release. Whereas when you actually use the concentrated sodium, what we call the enhancer, you can see that the chlorine is produced instead of the oxygen. And this is what the two of them combined together, what we call a strong Kangen. When you feel the strong Kangen, how does it feel? Very slimy, right? Very slippery. And the sliminess is actually due to the sodium hydroxide. You are actually producing not concentrated sodium hydroxide. So the slipperiness, I don't know whether, those of you who have to actually feel this water, I advise you not to feel it with your bare hand every day. Otherwise, you find that your skin getting thinner and thinner. I don't know whether you notice that. If you actually have to do this experiment every day, and you actually have to travel around, then when you go through the automatic, check, at the passport, at the airport there, you find that your fingerprint cannot recognize your fingerprint. You know why? Because cells from your skin is being dissolved. That's why you feel slippery, slimy. Okay, your fingerprint become less obvious already. So please do not actually touch it too much. Once a while is okay, but every day you actually go and wash, you will affect your skin. For those of you who have very thin skin, it might not be actually good for you. Okay, so do understand the science behind it, and then how to actually take care of yourself as well. Now diagrammatically again, this is the chlorine and the hydrogen, and now the ratio is 1:1. Now also I'd like to mention these a little bit more detail so that you understand, because some of us always actually I notice that there are some people who actually test the effectiveness of the strong acidic water through the smell. They said, cannot smell the pungent smell, means the water is not effective anymore. I'd like to tell you that might not be true. Okay? The reason why the antiseptic property of the strong acidic water is not due to the chlorine gas. In fact, the chlorine gas is not good for us. Okay, that's why I say if you've got family members who are actually allergic to chlorine, you may not want to feel that. Okay, so what is it that actually caused these strong acidic water to be able to kill the bacteria? It is actually the formation of the HOCl. The chlorine gas dissolved earlier on. I said this. Okay, the chlorine gas in the presence of sodium hydroxide, the OH minus here, actually it forms HOCl, hypochlorous acid, and it is this acid that is responsible for the antiseptic property of the strong acidic water. So in fact, you can see that at the strong acidic water over here, our pH is approximately 2.2 to 2.7. Okay. In fact, this water, if you actually research a little bit more, the Japanese Ministry of Health actually have done extensive research in this area here. And actually, they actually endorse the use of a strong acidic water 2.2 to 2.7 as a food additive. Not the chlorine gas. Chlorine gas will have already escaped already. Whatever left behind to react with the water will form the HOCl. And you can see that the concentration is approximately from 5 onward. From 5 all the way to actually is very high. Okay, so at 2 here is also quite high, close to 90% there. So it's effective. Okay, so remember, when you press the Kangen water or the beauty water, you are actually performing electrolysis of water. Okay, and the reaction I just mentioned. Whereas when you actually press the strong acidic water, you are actually carry out electrolysis of sodium chloride solution or salt solution. There's a difference. Okay, so do bear in mind that. Not sure whether I covered too fast, probably some of you. Okay, the next part I want to talk about is actually portability of drinking water. How do we make sure that the water is fit for drinking? Many of us share, of course, if we live in Singapore, we know our water is portable. The tap water can be drink, right? You can drink your tap water, but it doesn't mean it is healthy. It can be drink, it won't kill you, but it doesn't mean it is healthy. That is about tap water. So when we talk about portability of drinking water elsewhere, when you want to share this Kangen water machine with other friends in other parts of the world, let's say talk about neighbors, Indonesia. Talk about our neighbors further north, Thailand, Vietnam. I think it's very important for us to ensure that the water that goes into the machine must be portable first. Okay, portable first. You cannot assume that the machine will be able to kill the bacteria. Don't assume that. Don't assume that. It is safer not to actually assume that first. So let us look at how our machine works first. I'm sure many of you are actually familiar with this diagram of the Kangen water machine. Our machine in Singapore here is just connected to the tap directly over here. Okay, if you open up on the left side of the machine here, inside there over the other side is a filter. This is a 3-stage filter. A 3-stage filter that can remove sediment, rust, lead, chlorine, bacteria, and odor. It says that. But there's no guarantee that 100% of the bacteria will be removed. Okay, so for places where the water is not potable, in Singapore context, then you don't have to worry because water is potable. And the portability is caused by what, do you know? In a Singapore context, what makes our water potable? Chlorine gas. At the water treatment plant, they already put in the chlorine gas, and the chlorine gas already killed 99.999% of the bacteria. So that is already free. So free of bacteria when it reach our home. So therefore, certainly we can safely connect the water connect our machine to the tap like that. But elsewhere, if they are not using chlorine or ozone, okay, in some parts of the other part of the world, like for example in Europe, in the Scandinavian country, they are using actually ozone as a way of killing, sanitizing the water for drinking. Of course, that's better. In some states, in the United States as well, they are using ozone. And then they don't have this residue of actually chlorine in the water. That actually can cause harmful effects to the body because, for example, of the formation of the trihalomethanes. Okay, so here it goes into here, and the purified water now enters the electrolysis chamber, and therefore you can actually drink this water, and of course you can collect the beauty water over here. Now, water source must be potable here. So in places where water is not potable, then I suggest you may want to add additional filter over there. Additional filter. And these additional filters are added here to ensure that the water coming in here, the bacteria already being removed. Then the potable water now, you can actually safely go inside the chamber, and that produces the good quality Kangen water as well. Okay, so that is the principle behind. So now I want to tell you a little bit more about these additional filters here, because there are so many types of these filters out in the market there, and what is suitable. Okay, basically many of the filters actually work on the principle of what we call membranes. Membranes, basically. Okay, membranes here. So a membrane is something that actually when the water passes through, you filter off some of the solids inside there. And how much you can actually filter off depends on how the membrane, how big are the membrane holes. Okay, give you an example here. So this is the principle behind. The water is coming in from this direction here. Okay, so this is a membrane. So once the water actually passes through the membrane, you notice that some of them over this side now, it contains less. Okay, the big one, you can see that plenty of big one over here now cannot pass through. Okay, only left 2 here. So part of it now is actually retained by this. So this is the membrane here. There are many membranes are available in the market. Probably you have heard some of this. You've heard of some of this. Reverse osmosis, nanofiltration, ultrafiltration, microfiltration, and whatever filtration you can. Same principle. And so this is how actually diagrammatically how it actually looks like now. Think of this. The microfiltration here. You can see all these are big, smaller until the smallest. These are water molecules here. So once you pass through the MF, the biggest one is taken off already. Okay? Left 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one, the ultrafiltration, only left 3. Nanofiltration, left only 2. Once it passes through the RO, you only retain the, what are all these?
Water
molecules. All the minerals are totally stripped off. No more minerals. Okay, so this is what happened when you use a RO, reverse osmosis. Certainly, RO water, it is purer than our tap water, definitely. In fact, it's if you use a TDS, again, if you use a TDS meter and dip into your RO, a perfect pure water will show 0. Your TDS meter for RO water probably will show 001 or 00, not more than 005. Near to perfect. It is indeed the cleanest water. But does it mean that it is the healthiest water? Certainly not. Certainly not. If you have some people, actually you have friends and associates constantly drinking RO water, one of the common problems. If they have been drinking RO water for the past couple of years, then I can tell you there's one common problem: body ache. Body ache, bones, pain here and there, joint, so on and so forth. Why? Because no minerals in the water. No mineral in the water. The RO technology was invented in the United States partly because in the United States there are isolated places where there is no tap water. There is no tap water in many, many rural areas where there is no supply of tap water. So without the tap water, how do they ensure that the water is potable? Of course, they invented the RO system here. The RO system strip off even all these are, let's assume these are bacteria. Okay, all the bacteria will be stripped off. Only the water actually passes through the membrane. So therefore, this water is potable. But it is potable doesn't mean it is healthy. So how did the American people actually drink so much RO water, and yet probably many do not have this kind of problem? Many still have, but many do not have. There are a few reasons. Many people in the United States, for example, after the RO system, they remineralize. They add in mineral at this stage here. They add in mineral at this stage so that the water consumed now contains water. That's the first reason why. Second reason, if you look at the water in the United States, the tap water in the United States and the tap water in Singapore, it is quite different. As I mentioned, in the United States, a lot of places are hard water. They're using hard water. So what happens when the crops are actually grown in that kind of ground? The crop also contain a lot of calcium. Well, crops in Malaysia, in Singapore here, the grounds are all soft water. So the crops contain very little calcium. So although many people in the United States drink RO water, but the fruits they eat, the vegetables they eat contain calcium. Of course, they may still have sufficient amount of calcium in the body, and therefore they don't. And the third reason, of course, I think many people in America drink milk, eat cheese, a lot of this. Well, Asians, I think generally we eat less. We drink less milk, we actually eat less cheese. And particularly the pain, if you check around, if they don't like to drink milk, if they don't like to eat cheese, they definitely will have the bone problem if they use RO water. So coming back into the filter, the microfiltration, nanofiltration, ultrafiltration, and reverse osmosis filtration. Which one is the best for us? For the filter, for the pre-filter, we call the pre-filter entering into our machine. If we understand the potability of the water is really due to the presence of the bacteria. Okay? If we go to some places, let's say in the neighboring country, and you got a stomach ache after drinking their water, likely it is due to the bacteria. The water is not due to the virus in the water. Relatively very little viruses in the water. The virus will be in the air rather than actually, or human contact rather than the water. So therefore, actually what we really need to do is really to take care of the bacteria. So if you use a pre-filter, the fiber type, the filter is 1 micron, then you are actually removing almost 90% of the bacteria already. So if you are using the pre-filter, I would suggest you don't need to go down to, doesn't mean that 0.001 is better for you. At most, you want to use 0.1. And most likely, the kind of bacteria present in the water is actually bigger than 1 micron. So if you use the first part, the first pre-filter, probably when you use a pre-filter, you have two or more, depending on the water. then probably you want to use 1 micron is sufficient. If you use a smaller one, the water flow will be probably too slow. Okay, the smaller it is, the slower it is. Okay, and the slower it is, you may not be able again to produce effective Kangen water again. Okay, so that would be an ideal one, I think I suggest. If you want to actually add pre-filters to your system. Okay, other purposes of the pre-filters here, of course, places like Indonesia, Australia, and Vietnam, where actually the water is hard, then you need to use what we call ion exchange filters. Ion exchange. So ion exchange filters, basically it looks like something like that. Inside there, they are just resins. Beads, look like beads. Okay, you can shake them, you can hear the sound. And basically, this is to remove the excess calcium present in the water. And sometimes it is called a softener. A softener. So what does a softener do? A softener actually softens the water. Basically, it removes the excess calcium from the water. Too much calcium, your machine will actually get clogged up too quickly. And so ion exchange basically is an insoluble matrix here. And if you actually open up the ion exchange, it looks something like beads like that. Okay, of a certain color. And if you understand the chemistry behind it is something like this again. When you get a new ion exchange filter from Emerging Office, basically inside there is resin plus sodium. Inside there, with the sodium ion cling to the beads already. Now, it passes through, the water passes through here. The water contains plenty of calcium. So the calcium now, because the relative stability of the sodium and calcium, we know that if you still remember your chemistry, sodium is more reactive than calcium. So potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, and so on forth in that reaction series here. So what happens is that the calcium now actually go inside there, the sodium comes out. Okay, and therefore your resin now take away the calcium, but now you have added your calcium ions into the water. Okay, so therefore what it says is that the excess calcium now from the water is taken out by the resin itself. And what happened is that after some time, your resin now will be mainly resin with the calcium ions inside there, no longer the sodium. So what happened is that the filter need to be replaced. Okay, how often you need to replace this one? It really depends on the hardness of the water itself. In some cases, 1 week. In some cases, again depends. Okay, in the area where the hardness is actually the hardness varies across the regions here. Okay, so I've just shared with you on all this. Again, all this material that I have just summarized in this presentation will be actually will be covered in my new book, scheduled to be released later in the middle of this year. And again, you may not understand, very technical. Science involved, I think it's a little bit hard for some of you, but that's okay. So what you remember, what you need to be assured is that the science behind the production of the Kangen water is certainly sound. It is not the selling of snake oil. Certainly, it is science behind. Okay? And the quality of water is ideal for your health. Certainly, you can be assured about that. Okay, with that, thank you very much for attention, and I hope the information here is useful to you.